Welcome to Meteorology Matters. I'm genuinely excited you're with us today.
Great to be here.
We're going to take a really important and, I think, insightful look into the heart of the Atlantic hurricane season.
Yeah, things are definitely starting to percolate out there.
They really are. If you've spent any time online or, even just caught a news headline, you've probably noticed this growing buzz about the tropics.
Oh yeah, it's hard to miss.
And it can feel like a lot to process, can't it? So many maps flying around, so much chatter, and sometimes, well, frankly, conflicting ideas about what's actually unfolding.
Absolutely. That's where the confusion can set in.
So today, our mission, really, is to cut through all that noise and give you a clear, comprehensive understanding. Okay, let's unpack this.
Indeed. Our goal for this particular deep dive, it isn't just about reporting the latest facts. We want to truly empower you, the listener.
Right.
We're going to distill the most reliable forecasts, straight from the National Hurricane Center. We want to bypass that often misleading chatter you see on social media.
And provide you with a really crystal clear understanding of the bigger picture. What's fascinating here is we're going to connect these latest developments to the broader patterns.
The why behind it all.
Exactly. The patterns shaping our hurricane season, helping you understand why the tropics seem to be waking up now and, what you can genuinely expect in the coming weeks.
Precisely. And to guide us through this, well, it's an intricate dance of atmospheric forces, isn't it?
It really is.
We're going to hone in on a few key areas today. We'll focus heavily on that significant African disturbance, the one getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, that's the main player right now.
We'll delve into the science behind hurricane development this time of year, explore the conducive conditions that are currently aligning.
All those ingredients coming together.
And maybe most importantly, we'll try to equip you with the knowledge to interpret those long-range model forecasts so you can confidently separate the real signal from the noise,
Yeah, managing expectations is key. It's all about becoming truly well-informed, not just sort of inundated with data overload.
Couldn't agree more.
So let's jump right into the big story unfolding in the Atlantic, that truly massive African disturbance. This is the one that has everyone's attention and, well, for good reason. The National Hurricane Center is actively highlighting a very large potential development area for this system. It's just begun its journey off the African continent.
That's right. And when we look at its current state, it's quite notable. Initially, it's described as very large, somewhat ill-defined.
Meaning not tightly wound yet.
Exactly. It lacks a tightly organized center at this stage. But, and this is important, it is already showing some early signs of a circulation. That's a crucial first step.
Okay.
And perhaps most importantly, it's carrying a substantial amount of deep moisture with it. That's one of the foundational ingredients for hurricane formation.
Got it. Fuel.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, to put this in perspective, unlike some previous systems we tracked this season, remember Invest 96L?
Yeah, the one that went north.
Exactly. That tended to track northward because of a stubborn, blocking high-pressure system. Think of it like a big, invisible wall in the atmosphere.
Forcing things around it.
Precisely. But for this new disturbance, there's actually a strong consensus among the various global computer forecasts. They show it continuing on a general east-to-west path.
Towards the Caribbean.
Towards the Caribbean, yes, for the better part of next week. This is largely because that upper-level blocking high, while it's expected to weaken a bit, will still be strong enough to keep it moving generally westward for several days.
Before any potential turn.
Before any significant northward turn might happen later on.
Okay. And as with any potential storm, there are always these critical questions forecasters are wrestling with, right? What are the big unknowns for this system now? What are meteorologists looking for?
Well, the first major question really is when. When will this disturbance sufficiently fight off the dust and dry air it's encountering?
The Saharan air layer.
Exactly. The Saharan air layer, that plume of dry, dusty air, often moves off Africa right alongside these tropical waves. It acts as a real inhibitor.
Like throwing sand in the gears.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
This system needs to overcome that environmental resistance to really develop an organized circulation with sustained thunderstorms. It needs to clear out that dusty air to get going.
Makes sense. And the second question.
The second big question revolves around how the steering currents are going to evolve, especially as we head into next weekend and the following week.
Okay, explain steering currents again briefly.
Think of them as invisible rivers of air high up in the atmosphere. They carry and guide weather systems, much like ocean currents guide a ship.
Right.
This is where the long-term track really comes into play. Those currents dictate the path.
So how does something like the jet stream play into all of this? I know that can make a huge difference in where a storm ultimately goes, sometimes far from where it started.
That's a great question, and it's absolutely pivotal here. The consensus among various computer forecasts suggests a slight dip in the jet stream is predicted.
A dip, like a trough.
Yeah, a trough, exactly. It's predicted to weaken that blocking high-pressure system over the weekend. This weakening would then potentially allow the developing disturbance to lift slightly northward.
Okay.
But the exact nature, the timing, the depth of this dip that's critical. It will directly control how close the system ultimately comes to the northeastern Caribbean islands.
And potentially beyond.
And later, potentially the Bahamas or the southeast United States. Many computer forecasts right now show the system as at least a tropical storm by that time, nearing the Caribbean. Some even show hurricane strength.
Wow, okay.
This is why we watch the jet stream so closely. It's like the master conductor for these systems.
And the rate at which a system intensifies also affects its path, isn't it? I remember hearing that. It seems a bit counterintuitive, maybe.
It does, but it's a crucial point, often misunderstood. How quickly the storm intensifies is extremely important.
Why is that?
Because a stronger tropical system is much more likely to be pulled northward by that dip in the jet stream we just talked about.
So stronger means more likely to turn north sooner.
Generally, yes. Think of the atmosphere in layers, like a cake. Lower level winds might push a weaker, shallow storm westward. But a strong hurricane builds these towering thunderstorms.
Right, way up high.
Exactly. They punch up into the faster, higher altitude rivers of air, like the jet stream. It's like a shallow boat versus a deep-keeled ship. Only the ship gets truly speared by the deep, powerful currents.
Gotcha. So the storm structure interacts differently with the steering layers.
Precisely. A rapidly intensifying storm has its upper-level circulation influenced by those stronger, higher steering currents, pulling it more northward. Conversely, a system that develops more slowly
Stays further west longer.
tends to travel farther west, yeah. It stays under the influence of the lower-level trade winds for a longer period before eventually making any northward turn. This difference in development pace can mean hundreds of miles difference in a long-range forecast track.
And I imagine these subtle differences in development, how fast it spins up, the exact nature of those atmospheric layers, that's what causes all the varied long-range forecasts we see swirling around online, right? The ones that cause so much anxiety sometimes.
Precisely. The differences in the rate of intensification, along with the exact depth and nature of that jet stream dip. That's exactly what accounts for the wide range of long-range forecasts you might see.
So one model showing a direct hit 10 days out is just one possibility.
Exactly. Because the precise evolution of these intricate details is, at this point, unknowable more than about, say, 5 to 7 days out. It's simply impossible to accurately forecast a storm's exact track a week or more in advance with any real confidence.
Good reminder.
Yeah, a single model run showing a Category 5 hitting your town 10 days from now is just one scenario out of many, many possibilities. It should be viewed with extreme skepticism.
So given all this uncertainty, but also the potential, what does this all mean for us right now? How much hype should we pay attention to? How do we distill what's truly important?
Okay, what we do know with a good degree of confidence is this. The overall weather pattern across the Atlantic, from the Caribbean islands all the way to the southeast U.S. coast, is currently forecast to be quite conducive for this system to organize and strengthen. It's a very favorable environment setting up.
So the ingredients are there.
The ingredients look like they'll be there, yes. In fact, enough long-range forecasts are showing the potential for hurricane development that we can say there's a good chance we'll see Hurricane Erin emerge from the system within the next week or so.
Okay, Hurricane Erin potentially. But, and this is the big but.
This is absolutely vital to clarify. Many of the potential tracks currently show the system turning northward and staying offshore of the East Coast as it approaches.
So no need to panic about a specific landfall point yet.
Absolutely no reason at this stage to focus on any one specific location for potential impacts or to begin, drastic preparation. As we move through next week, if the system becomes better defined, which the consensus of forecasts currently suggests, it will need this. Then our confidence in what the computer projections are telling us will naturally increase significantly. We'll be able to narrow down those possibilities.
That's a great reminder to keep perspective and focus on the current reliable information from the National Hurricane Center. Okay, beyond this main event, what else is stirring in the Atlantic right now? Any other systems we should be aware of, or are they largely fizzling out?
Yes, there are a few other areas we've been tracking. The National Hurricane Center is still tracking Invest 96L, the one we mentioned earlier that tracked north.
How's that one looking?
For this one, they've actually lowered the odds for it to develop into a tropical depression. It's in the low range now, meaning they're still investigating it, but its chances are looking slim.
And no threat to land.
No threat to land, regardless. It's expected to turn out to sea well before reaching Bermuda. It's staying a fish storm, as we call them.
Okay. And what about that small system that was briefly offshore of the Carolinas? I think some coastal folks were watching that one.
That small system, yeah, that one has now been completely absorbed by a cold front. It's effectively washed away, so it's no longer a factor for anyone.
Gone.
Pretty much. Its development odds had been lowered to 20% anyway, and it's expected to become non-tropical and just move away.
Yeah.
Might even bring some drier air to the Carolinas in its wake.
Which might be welcome after recent rains in some spots.
Could be, yeah.
We also had Tropical Storm Dexter making some noise for a bit, didn't we? What happened with that system? Is it still a concern anywhere?
Dexter. It did gain some steam for a bit, got itself a name, but it's now effectively hauling away from the United States. It's no longer a tropical system. It's become non-tropical.
Another fish storm.
Another fish storm, exactly. It's staying firmly in no man's land, way north of Bermuda, moving into cooler waters where it's steadily weakening. So, no concerns there for land. Essentially just a remnant now.
Okay, good. So now that we've covered the current systems, let's step back again and look at that bigger picture. Why is the Atlantic waking up now? It really feels like someone flipped a switch after a relatively quiet June and July. What's driving this change?
Yeah, it does feel like that sometimes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these forecasts, the ones we're seeing now, they're really telling us something important about the next few weeks.
Right.
The latest updates to the Atlantic hurricane season outlook from places like Colorado State University and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, they confirm this shift.
What are they saying now? Still predicting an active season overall?
They are. Colorado State is still predicting a robust season. 16 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 3 Category 3 or stronger hurricanes.
Okay.
And NOAA's forecast falls within a similar range. 13 to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes.
So still above average numbers expected.
Definitely. And what these numbers overwhelmingly indicate is a season that is backloaded.
Backloaded
Meaning we should expect significantly more hurricane activity later in the season, August, September, October, compared to the early part. And that's exactly what we're starting to see kick into gear right now.
So this isn't random, it's a pattern.
It's not just a random occurrence, it's a climatological pattern kicking into gear.
So it's not just a coincidence we're suddenly seeing all this activity.
Yeah.
This is actually a predictable shift, right? We're truly entering what's known as the Cape Verde season. Can you explain why that's so significant? What does that mean?
Precisely. The main development region, the MDR as we call it, is indeed coming to life, which is entirely typical for this specific time of year.
The MDR being that stretch from Africa towards the Caribbean.
Exactly, that main nursery area. For centuries, mariners, meteorologists, they've observed that August, September, and October are the peak months for storms forming off the west coast of Africa, near the Cape Verde Islands, and then tracking westward across the Atlantic.
And there are reasons for that timing.
Oh, yes. There's a confluence of atmospheric and oceanic factors that are now falling into place to make this happen. First, the Atlantic waters. They are slightly warmer than normal right now.
Still quite warm.
Still quite warm. Well, maybe not as extreme as what we saw last year. Sea surface temperatures are definitely warm, upper 80s, even low 90s Fahrenheit in some spots, especially as you get closer to the Windward and Leeward Islands and in the Gulf of Mexico.
And warm water is fuel.
It provides ample energy for storms to develop and intensify. Think of it as high-octane fuel for these potential systems.
Okay. And I've heard the term La Niña Light being used recently. How does that play into the current conditions? What does that mean for hurricane development?
That's a good observation, and it's another key factor. We're seeing what could be described as La Niña Light conditions developing in the Pacific.
And that affects the Atlantic.
It does. Generally, La Niña means the atmosphere over the Atlantic becomes more conducive to storm development, particularly later in the season.
How so?
In a nutshell, La Niña typically leads to reduced vertical wind shear over the main hurricane development regions of the Atlantic.
Wind shear. That's bad for storms, right?
Vertical wind shear is very bad for developing storms. It's the change in wind speed or direction with height in the atmosphere. Imagine a developing storm like a tall, spinning top.
Okay.
Strong wind shear is like a giant hand trying to push that top over, tearing it apart before it can really get going and strengthen.
Disrupts the structure.
Exactly. But low wind shear, on the other hand, allows that top to spin freely, grow taller, get organized. So with these La Niña Light conditions potentially influencing things, we expect really low wind shear right over where these storms may potentially form.
Fewer disruptive forces.
Fewer disruptive forces high up that can tear apart developing systems. And remember, the upper level winds over the Caribbean were very hostile back in June and July. That was like a double minus against storm development.
Right, things were quiet then.
But those conditions are now balancing out. They're becoming much more favorable, allowing for this increase in activity. So all the ingredients are coming together. Warm water, minimal shear, and those tropical waves rolling off Africa.
So it sounds like we might be seeing a steady stream, or as some people call it, a parade of systems coming off Africa from this point forward. Is that likely?
The current pattern certainly looks like it will lead to something like a parade of systems coming in the general direction of the Caribbean. This is quite common as the Cape Verde season really kicks into high gear.
And historically, this timing lines up.
It lines up perfectly. To put it in historical context, the average date for the first Atlantic hurricane formation is August 11th.
We're right around there.
We are. And the climatological peak of the entire hurricane season is September 10th. So we're still building towards the peak. This really reinforces that idea of a backloaded season.
Any past seasons this reminds you of?
Well, we can draw some parallels. The 2010 hurricane season also had a quiet start. June and July were slow. But then it saw a significant pickup in late August. That year was actually heavy on fish storms that thankfully stayed out at sea.
So active doesn't always mean landfalls.
Doesn't always mean landfalls, exactly. It offers a hopeful parallel that increased activity depends heavily on those steering currents we talked about. But then you look further back, 2004 was a very busy landfalling year. Ivan, Jean, Francis.
Oof. Yeah, I remember that.
That reminds us of the potential impact. The point is, the shift in activity is well within historical norms for this time of year, but the conditions now are very conducive for that activity to really ramp up.
So what does all this mean for us as we try to navigate this, increasingly active period? Because it feels like as soon as the tropics wake up, so does the, let's call it, information storm on social media.
Right. This raises that important question.
Yeah.
How do we make sense of all this information without getting swept up in the hype, the anxiety?
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues we encounter every year is what some people playfully call the GFS cane phenomenon.
GFS cane, meaning those crazy-looking maps.
Exactly. You'll see these viral social media posts showing extreme storms, sometimes Category 5 monsters, supposedly impacting specific parts of the coast 10, 12, 14 days out.
I see those all the time.
It's crucial to understand that these single scenario maps are very often designed purely for clicks. They get shared like wildfire.
But they aren't reliable forecasts.
They are not skillful or credible forecasts at that range. They are simply too far in the future to be reliable. Models like the GFS, the Global Forecast System, they tend to spin up a storm far out in their calculations.
Just trying possibilities?
Kind of.
Yeah.
And such specific forecasts will literally bounce around daily, changing drastically as new data comes in. There's no real news or actionable information in those single, scary-looking maps. They just create unnecessary anxiety.
So, if single model runs aren't reliable that far out, what should we be looking at? What's the difference? Because I know there's a lot of talk about ensemble forecasts. How do they help us gain more confidence?
That's where the power of ensembles comes in, and it's a vital concept for anyone following hurricane season seriously.
Okay, explain ensembles.
Ensemble forecasts, like those from the European Model Ensemble System or even the newer Google AI model and the Euro AI model, they run their core atmospheric model many, many times.
Not just once.
Not just once. Sometimes up to 50 or 100 times, each with subtle, slightly varied starting conditions, tiny changes in temperature, pressure, things like that.
To account for uncertainty in the starting point.
Precisely. This process generates a wide range of possible outcomes. It creates what often looks like a spaghetti plot on a map, where each strand represents a different potential track from one of those model runs.
I've seen those spaghetti plots.
Right. Now, when you see the different colors representing these different runs clustering tightly together...
All going to roughly the same place.
Exactly. That gives forecasters much higher confidence in a particular outcome. It means that even with slight uncertainties in the initial data, The model keeps pointing to a similar solution.
And if they're spread out all over the place?
Conversely, when those lines are widespread and scattered, like spaghetti thrown against a wall, it indicates very high uncertainty, even for new technologies like Google's AI model.
So spread means low confidence.
Low confidence. It tells us the atmosphere is less predictable at that time. By the way, that Google AI model is available for anyone to look at, and while it's still improving, it has this unique ability to self-correct and update much faster than the traditional models. But the principle is the same. Convergence means confidence. Divergence means uncertainty. That's what meteorologists use to gauge the forecast confidence.
That makes a lot more sense looking at the consensus, not just one wild outlier. Okay, and then there's the cone of uncertainty, which I think still often gets misunderstood. What's the biggest misconception you find people have about the cone?
Oh, the cone. Yeah, probably one of the most misunderstood visuals in hurricane forecasting. The biggest misconception, hands down, is that the cone represents the area of impacts.
Like if you're outside the cone, you're safe.
That's exactly the misconception, and it's absolutely not true. It's crucial to understand the cone is specifically designed to show the probable track of the center of the storm based on historical forecast errors.
What's the center point?
Just the probable path of the center point over time. It does not by any means represent the entirety of the storm's impacts.
Because impacts are much wider.
Much wider. Impacts like heavy rain, strong winds, dangerous storm surge, they can and often do extend far beyond the boundaries of that cone, sometimes hundreds of miles away from the center.
That's a really important distinction.
It is. On the positive side, the cone has actually narrowed significantly over the years.
Oh, really? Why is that?
It reflects the much improved accuracy in track forecasting. Meteorologists have gotten much better at predicting where a storm will go. That's a huge success story.
But intensity is still tricky.
Exactly. A significant challenge that remains is intensity forecasting, especially predicting rapid intensification when a storm suddenly strengthens much faster than expected.
Right, that can happen quickly.
It can.
Yeah.
And because of this uncertainty and intensity, our advice generally is always to prepare for a storm potentially one category stronger than what is officially forecast, especially given the potential for rapid intensification over very warm waters, like those warm ocean eddies that can act like rocket fuel.
Good advice. So don't focus on the edge of the cone.
Don't focus on the edge of the cone. Focus on whether your location is in the general vicinity of its potential path and prepare for potential impacts accordingly, considering the intensity uncertainty.
Okay, now, having discussed how meteorologists use these tools, the models, the cone, and understand their limitations, let's maybe look at how they apply that understanding to the very latest raw data coming in. This informs their confidence levels, right? It's almost like looking over a meteorologist's shoulder at their notes. What are the current specifics for that main African tropical wave 18W from the latest technical discussions?
Certainly, yeah. Zooming in on those latest tropical weather discussions, which are quite detailed, that African tropical wave, designated 18W, currently has its axis, its center line, essentially positioned roughly along 18 degrees west longitude. It extends southward from about 16 degrees north latitude.
And what's associated with it? Clouds, thunderstorms.
Associated with this wave, we're observing, and this is their terminology, numerous moderate to isolated strong convection.
Which means thunderstorms.
Thunderstorms, yeah. Rising air creating clouds and storms. This activity is located generally from 1 degree north to 15 degrees north latitude and east of 20 degrees west longitude.
And the forecast for it. Development chances.
The National Hurricane Center indicates a low chance of slow development for this wave over the next 7 days. That's the official word right now.
Low chance, but still possible.
Still possible, yes. As it moves northwestward at about 15 knots across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. The main hurdles right now are still that initial dry air and dust it's encountering. Those are the primary hindrances.
Okay. And there's also that central Atlantic tropical wave you mentioned, AL96. What's the latest on that one? How's it behaving?
Yes, the Central Atlantic Tropical Wave, identified as 46W, or also invest AL96. Its axis is along 46 degrees west longitude, stretching from 9 north to 23 north, also moving westward around 15 knots.
And there's a low pressure with it.
There's a 1013 millibar low pressure center, that's AL96 specifically, noted along the northern part of this wave's axis, near 20 north latitude. Scattered moderate convection, more thunderstorms is present near this low, between 44 and 47 west longitude.
Development odds for this one.
Well, development of this specific low pressure is not expected over the next 48 hours. Again, mainly due to dry air surrounding it, that common initial obstacle.
But longer term.
Some gradual development is possible during the early or middle part of next week as the system moves northwestward to northward across the central Atlantic. So this feature also carries a low chance of tropical development over the next 7 days, but it's another one in that parade that we're definitely monitoring.
Good to keep track of the individual players. How about the broader atmospheric features? Like the monsoon trough and the intertropical convergence zone, the ITCZ, they're always key players, right? Like the nurseries.
Indeed they are. Understanding them provides crucial context for where these waves come from. The monsoon trough axis currently enters the Atlantic near 19 north, 16.5 west, and then stretches southwestward to 5.5 north, 38 west.
And that's a low-pressure area.
It is. This trough is essentially a zone of enhanced moisture and instability in the atmosphere, often the breeding ground for the very waves that can become tropical systems later on.
And the ITCZ.
The Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ, is currently located from 14 north, 48 west to 11 north, 58 west. This is that persistent belt of low pressure near the equator where the trade winds from the northern and southern hemispheres converge.
It creates rising air.
Creates lots of rising air, leading to widespread convection. We've observed scattered moderate convection forming this morning from 5 north to 9 north, between 20 west and 30 west, all associated with these broader features. They serve as continuous sources of tropical activity. These are really the large-scale drivers of the Cape Verde season.
Okay, let's bring it a bit closer to home now. What are the prevailing conditions in the Gulf of Mexico right now? Is it quiet over there, or are there any brewing concerns?
In the Gulf of Mexico, things are relatively quiet overall. There's a surface trough extending across northern Florida to near 27 north, 86 west.
Any weather with that?
Scattered moderate convection, some thunderstorms, continue north of this trough, mainly offshore of the Florida Panhandle, and also over the far eastern Gulf, east of 85 west. There's also some scattered moderate convection ongoing over the eastern Bay of Campeche, linked to a surface trough along the west coast of the Yucatan Peninsula.
But mostly calm.
Otherwise, yeah, the basin is largely dominated by a 10-15 millibar high-pressure system centered in the western Gulf that's leading to light to gentle winds and relatively slight seas, generally calm conditions.
And the forecast for the Gulf?
Weak high pressure is expected to continue dominating the weather pattern across the Gulf waters into the middle of next week. That supports mostly gentle to moderate winds and slight to moderate seas. We might see some fresh northeast winds pulse nightly, starting maybe Monday night, west of the Yucatan Peninsula. That's as a diurnal trough, a daily low-pressure feature moves westward offshore into the Bay of Campeche each evening. But overall, the Gulf remains fairly quiet for now. Always worth keeping an eye on, though.
Always. Okay, and what about the Caribbean Sea? Active? Or relatively quiet compared to the deeper Atlantic where those waves are forming?
The Caribbean Sea has seen some changes recently. Convection that was previously active in the Northwest Basin dissipated early this morning, so fair weather is now prevailing throughout most of the basin, with the trade winds dominating.
What kind of winds?
We're seeing moderate to fresh easterlies in the central basin, gentle to moderate east winds in the eastern and southwest parts. In the Northwest Caribbean, light to gentle southeast winds are present.
And the seas?
Seas are generally 3 to 5 feet, a bit higher, maybe 5 to 7 feet in the south central basin, and calmer 1 to 3 feet up in the northwest.
What's the forecast look like for the Caribbean?
Looking ahead, high pressure located north of the basin, combined with the Colombian low to the south, that setup will support fresh to locally strong winds and moderate to rough seas over the waters just offshore of Venezuela and Colombia. That's primarily today.
Gets windy there sometimes.
It does. After a brief lull, a passing tropical wave is expected to cause similar wind speeds to return again starting Tuesday. And in the Gulf of Honduras, we might see pulsing winds of fresh speeds with moderate seas tonight through Wednesday night.
But elsewhere?
Elsewhere, across the Caribbean, gentle to moderate winds and slight to moderate seas are forecast through early next week. So a few localized areas of elevated winds and seas, but largely stable for now compared to the main development region.
Okay, moving farther out into the Atlantic Ocean, away from the immediate coastal areas in the Caribbean, what's happening in those open waters that might influence systems down the line, or just tells us about the general state?
Right. Out in the broader Atlantic, there's a deep layer trough. Remember, that's a persistent area of low pressure and instability through much of the atmosphere. It's situated across the far northwest waters right now.
Causing any weather?
It is currently leading to scattered moderate to isolated strong convection west of 77 west longitude that's impacting waters offshore of Florida and the northwest Bahamas. There's also a surface trough extending from 30 north, 56 west down to 25 north, 61 west, but that one is producing little in the way of significant weather right now. The remaining convection out in the basin is mostly associated with those tropical waves and the monsoon trough we already discussed.
What about winds and seas out there?
Generally, west of 50 degrees west longitude, we're seeing gentle east winds and moderate seas. To the east of 50 west, for waters south of 15 north, light to gentle winds and seas of 4 to 6 feet are dominant. North of 15 north, however, it's windier. Fresh to locally strong northeast winds and seas of 6 to 10 feet are dominating.
Where are the highest seas?
The highest seas are specifically noted in a corridor stretching from 18 north to 26 north latitude, between 18 west and 34 west longitude. So quite choppy out there in that zone.
And the forecast for the open Atlantic? Anything developing?
For the forecast west of 55 west, that low-pressure system, AL96, the one associated with the tropical wave southeast of the region, is forecast to move northwest. It may impact the far northeast waters during the early to middle parts of next week. Still low chance of development, though.
Still a low chance of tropical formation with this low as it moves northwest or north during this period. Otherwise, a relatively weak pressure gradient, meaning only slight differences in air pressure, will support generally gentle to moderate winds and slight to moderate seas across most of the western Atlantic region through Sunday. Maybe some occasional fresh pulsing winds near Hispaniola. It's truly a vast and dynamic ocean out there.
It really is. So after all that incredibly detailed technical discussion, let's bring it back again to what this all means for you, our listener. What practical concerns should you be thinking about, especially as we head into this clearly more active part of the season? What are some of the realities of a backloaded season kicking in?
Yeah, absolutely. One significant concern that often arises, and it's increasingly critical to understand even with weaker systems or storms that don't make a direct landfall, is inland flooding.
Not just storm surge on the coast. Exactly. This is really important. We know that warmer air holds significantly more moisture. It's basic physics. For every degree Celsius hotter, the air can hold about 7% more water vapor.
Wow, 7% per degree.
It adds up fast. So this means that when storms do fire up in this warmer environment, they can carry a tremendous amount more rain. That leads to potentially very heavy amounts of precipitation over a short period.
Even far from the storm center.
Even far inland, in areas that might not typically associate themselves with direct hurricane wind impacts. If you live in an area prone to inland flooding, maybe from overflowing rivers, already saturated ground, or overwhelmed drainage systems, this is definitely something to acknowledge and prepare for proactively.
Good point. It's not just a coastal threat.
Not at all. Water is often the biggest danger.
And as we talk about preparing, those of us who live in hurricane-prone areas like Florida, we often have our own little hurricane preparedness strategies or hacks we've picked up over the years. What are some practical tips for folks to get ready now before something potentially develops, maybe beyond just the basic flashlight and batteries kit?
Absolutely. Now is absolutely the time to prepare. Don't wait until a storm is bearing down on you and the store shelves are completely empty.
The lines get crazy.
They do. So, beyond the basic emergency kit, consider some strategic hacks that can really help. One I've heard for important documents, passports, insurance papers, irreplaceable family photos.
Yeah.
A dishwasher can actually be a surprisingly safe place to store them during potential flooding. It's designed to be watertight, right?
Huh. Never thought of that. Clever.
Another great tip, especially if you anticipate power outages, which are common, make and freeze a large batch of coffee. Or even just water bottles or jugs of water.
Why coffee?
Well, not only will you have iced coffee ready to enjoy when the power is out, right, but more importantly, these large frozen blocks of coffee or water act like giant ice packs. They can help keep your freezer and refrigerator cold for much longer, preserving perishable food for an extended period.
Smart. Extend the life of the freezer contents?
Exactly. And more broadly, think about financial preparedness. Gather important insurance policy numbers, maybe have some cash on hand since ATMs and credit card machines might be down. Understand your deductibles.
Communication plans, too.
Definitely discuss communication plans with family members, especially if you might get separated or cell service goes down. Who do you contact out of state? How will it check in?
And just stay calm.
And remember, preparedness is also a mental game. Staying calm and informed, Relying on credible sources rather than reacting emotionally to hype, that's your biggest asset. Having a plan and a well-stocked kit truly gives you peace of mind.
This has been incredibly insightful. Thank you. It's clear the Atlantic is indeed entering a much more active phase, particularly with this significant African disturbance rolling out. And it's all aligning with what climatology tells us should happen this time of year. But the main takeaway here, I think, for all of us, is that reliable, science-backed information is absolutely paramount.
That's the key.
It helps avoid unnecessary worry, and it helps us prepare effectively and intelligently.
That's right. Continue to stay informed through those reliable channels, like the National Hurricane Center. Don't fall prey to the social media hype machines that are often designed just to grab attention rather than provide accurate, actionable information.
Be discerning.
Be discerning with your sources, absolutely. And understand the limitations of those really long-range forecasts. Focus on the next few days to a week out for reliable details.
And as we wrap up this deep dive for Meteorology Matters, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final provocative thought to consider as this season progresses.
Okay. As we see this overall pattern in the Atlantic becoming more conducive for a Cape Verde season, which, again, is entirely usual for this time of year, and we witness these atmospheric and oceanic conditions aligning just right to make that happen, it truly makes you ponder. How might we need to redefine what a typical hurricane season looks like in the years to come, especially as these larger global climate patterns continue to evolve and potentially shift baselines?
That's a deep question. What does normal even mean anymore?
Exactly. It's a question worth mulling over long after this discussion concludes, something to think about as we watch things unfold.
A fascinating thought indeed. For more updates and to keep following meteorologist Rob Jones, you can find him on Instagram. His handle is meteorologist.
Easy to remember.
On TikTok, he's at TV Meteorologist. And on YouTube, just search for Rob Jones Hurricane. And on that YouTube channel, you'll also find the Meteorology Matters podcast playlist with our past deep dives.
And we absolutely encourage you to do that. Stay plugged into reliable sources. The more informed you are, the better prepared you can be. And honestly, the more clarity you'll have during what can sometimes feel like an uncertain time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in to Meteorology Matters.
We appreciate you joining us for this deep dive. Stay safe out there.